For the final bit of your climate notes, we need to talk about a few ideas that we've had, haven't had, what we thought was true, turns out it's not, and what we figured out since then. Well, heat islands. You might have heard this before, you might not have, but a heat island is an urban area that's warmer than its surrounding the countryside, basically. Why do you think that is? Well, what is a heat island? It's a city. What does a city have a lot of? Asphalt, concrete, reflective surfaces like that. Not a whole lot of ground. So what happens is all these buildings trap in all this heat that reflects off the roads and the sidewalks and all that kind of thing. And we used to think that this was part of climate change. Turns out it's not. Not even related to. Has nothing to do with climate change. It's all to do with how the city is built and structured and wind not being able to blow through because of buildings and stuff like that. So while it's important to understand what a heat island is, has nothing to do with climate change like we once thought it might. But climate change has started to affect how our life goes. And what we can see is we can grow things in places we didn't used to be able to grow them, and we can't grow stuff in where we can grow it now. And it's going to keep changing, and we can't predict this. We don't know what's going to happen. We've seen that plants and animals have migrated, but the thing is, climate change happens faster sometimes than what this evolutionary trait can adapt. Some things can't move to a new environment fast enough to keep up with it, and it's going to cause, and has started to cause, mass extinctions. And we're in, arguably, the sixth great mass extinction that's happening that not a lot of people are talking about. We also know that, yes, we are warming up, and yes, we are leaving the ice age, if you remember that. However, we're warming up 10 or more times faster than when we left the last ice age. And what does this mean? We're going to run out of supplies, we're going to run out of water, we're going to run out of food, we're going to run out of farming area. And no, I don't mean to sound alarmist and say that this is all going to happen right now in the next 5 years. It's not. We're not going to run out of these things, tomorrow. And I don't want to make it sound like that. However, I am telling you that if we don't make changes moving forward and we don't plan for this and we don't update our way of thinking and our way of life, eventually those things will happen. Food and water are going to be what a lot of wars are fought over. And we may have talked about it and we may not have. The DoD, the Department of Defense, Department of Homeland Security, the military, all sorts of things like that have said that climate change is going to cause a lot of conflicts around the world. And if you want things to be secure and safe, you don't want conflicts. And if you don't want conflicts, you need to make sure that people have the necessities that they need, the necessary items, food and water. And if they don't have access to that, or something changes where they live and it takes their fresh water away, or it takes their farmable land away, they're going to want to expand out, or other countries are going to hold stuff like that over them in a geopolitical sense. None of this is going to go well unless we learn to start working together, and I think you can probably answer that without me having to tell you what's going to go there. But all of this, goes back to, ultimately, the ice is going to start melting, the sea level is going to rise, coastal areas are where I think it's about 80% of people live are going to get pushed inland. And, I've heard the argument that's like, oh, well, they'll just sell their house and move to somewhere else. Sell their house that's underwater? Like, we're going to have mass disruptions of people moving to a smaller area, which means more people in a smaller space. That typically doesn't go well either. So it's not all doom and gloom. There is time to fix this. We can still change this. We have not hit the point of no return yet. We are running out of time though, and we need to start making changes soon. And I'm going to make a separate video, and we're going to talk about it in class, and if you're in honors, part of your project is going to be about this. But we're going to look at those decisions that countries have and haven't made, and ones they've changed and updated and gone back on, and all sorts of things like that. And we're going to figure out what that really means moving forward, and how much time do we have before we start to get into trouble. But if you're curious, I'm going to post a link in the description down here of what it's going to feel like roughly in 60 years. And again, this isn't a guess. This is based on math. It's a model. You can type in where a place is and see in 60 years' time, if we continue at our current rates, what's it going to feel like? some of the answers might surprise you. It's not that it always gets hotter. It's not that it always gets drier. It's not that it always gets more rain. The best way to really think about climate change isn't that everything gets hotter and drier. It's that it gets more extreme. And that's really where we're going to run into our problem. Now, we're going to have a couple more discussions about this, especially in the honors classes. We're going to think about it and kind of bounce ideas off each other and talk about things a little more in depth. But overall, it's a scary topic, and I get that, and maybe some of you don't think it's even real. I can assure you that it is real. I can assure you that it's happening, and it's happening right now. It's affecting you whether you want to accept that or not. What do we do about it? Unfortunately, as a political answer, it doesn't just rely on science, but we need to listen to science and do the best we can before we run out of time.